The stellar cartography vessel Horizon's Edge drifted silently through the cosmic void, its sensors probing the darkness between galaxies. Dr. Sarah Chen stood at the main observation deck, her dark eyes fixed on the endless expanse of nothingness. 20 years of mapping uncharted space, and this was different. The void shouldn't have a heartbeat. Dr. Chen, we're picking up the signal again. Lieutenant Kara Morrison's voice came through the ship's comm system. It's stronger this time. Sarah watched as holographic displays materialized around her, showing wave after wave of regular pulses. They were too precise to be natural, too ancient to be from any known civilization. The signal originated from a point in space where nothing should exist, the vast emptiness between the Andromeda and Milky Way galaxies. How old? Sarah asked, though she already suspected the answer. Initial quantum dating puts it at approximately 300,000 years, Morrison replied. That's before any known spacefaring civilization. The bridge fell silent. The Galactic Union's historical records only went back 50,000 years. Even the Eldari, the oldest known species in the galaxy, had only achieved space travel 80,000 years ago. Plot a course, Sarah ordered. Whatever's out there, it's been waiting for someone to find it. The Horizon's Edge adjusted its trajectory, its quantum drives humming to life. The crew of 30, a mix of humans and aliens from across the Galactic Union, prepared for what could be the discovery of the millennium. Sarah felt a familiar tingle of excitement mixed with dread. She'd spent her career studying ancient ruins and artifacts, but something about this discovery felt different. As they approached the signal source, the ship's sensors began picking up more detail. What they initially thought was a single point in space revealed itself to be a massive structure, a space station unlike anything in known space. That's impossible, Chief Engineer Zaxtel, a towering insectoid Vexcar, chittered in disbelief. The energy readings. The station is still active. The station hung in space like a massive snowflake made of dark metal, its surface etched with geometric patterns that seemed to absorb nearby starlight. It was easily 20 kilometers across, dwarfing the Horizon's Edge. No signs of radiation damage, Morrison reported, her fingers dancing across holographic controls. Hull integrity at 100%. That can't be right. Nothing survives this long in open space without degradation. Sarah studied the station's design. Unlike the organic curves favored by modern spacecraft, this structure was all sharp angles and precise geometric shapes. It reminded her of something, but she couldn't quite place it. Picking up an automated beacon, Morrison announced. It's broadcasting on. Wait, that can't be right. What is it? Sarah asked. It's broadcasting on frequencies that match early human radio communications, but that's impossible. Humanity only achieved spaceflight 300 years ago. Sarah felt her heart skip a beat. She'd seen similar geometric patterns before, in ancient ruins on Earth, patterns that archaeologists had dismissed as coincidence or primitive art. But here they were, reproduced with impossible precision on a structure that predated known civilization. Prepare a boarding team, she ordered. Full containment protocols. Whatever built this place, we need to know why it's using human communications frequencies. As the boarding team prepared, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to uncover something that would rewrite not just human history, but the history of all known space. The station hung before them, silent and ancient, its geometric patterns seeming to pulse with hidden meaning. Little did they know, deep within the station, systems that had slumbered for millennia were beginning to stir. They had been waiting for the right DNA signature, waiting for the children of Earth to finally return home. The boarding team's shuttle approached one of the station's massive docking bays. As they drew closer, lines of light began to trace across the station's surface, following the geometric patterns. The dark metal was coming alive. Dr. Chen, Morrison's voice wavered slightly. The station, it's responding to our presence, but we haven't initiated any contact protocols." The Guardian's response sent chills down her spine, because they saw what was coming. The cycle that ends civilizations. They knew humanity would need time to evolve again, to grow stronger, to learn from its mistakes. And they knew that when the time came, their children would need every advantage to face what lies between the galaxies. The star map shifted again, showing something massive moving through the void between Andromeda and the Milky Way. Something that defied their understanding of physics and biology. Something that was slowly, inexorably, heading toward populated space. The Ancient Ones couldn't stop it. The Guardian continued, but they could prepare for its return. "You have found us just in time. The cycle begins again in less than 50 years. Sarah looked at her team members, human and alien alike, and saw the same mix of fear and determination in their eyes. Humanity hadn't just discovered its past, it had discovered its purpose. How? Sarah swallowed hard. How do we begin? The Guardian gestured, and the chamber filled with holographic displays showing technical specifications, tactical data, and historical records. First, you must understand who you truly are. The Ancient Ones weren't just a civilization. They were the guardians of all life in this galaxy. And now, their children must decide if they are ready to take up that mantle. As the information flooded around them, Sarah realized that every discovery she'd made in her career had been leading to this moment. The geometric patterns in Earth's ancient ruins, the inexplicable gaps in human genetic evolution, the strange familiarity humans had always felt when looking up at the stars. They weren't just reaching for the heavens. They were remembering them. The Guardian stepped aside, revealing a central platform that rose from the floor. "Dr. Sarah Chen, you have proven yourself worthy by finding us. Will you accept the responsibility of awakening humanity to its true heritage?" Sarah stepped forward, her heart pounding. Behind her, Rodriguez and Zaxtal watched in silence as she placed her hand on the platform. The geometric patterns flared to life, and deep within the station, ancient machinery began to awaken. The time of hiding was over. Humanity's greatest test, and its greatest adventure, was about to begin. News of the discovery spread through the Galactic Union like a supernova. Within days, the Void Station was surrounded by ships from every major species and corporation in known space. The Horizon's Edge found itself at the center of a political firestorm. Sarah stood in the station's command center, watching the swarm of vessels through a holographic display. The Guardians stood silently around the room, their presence both reassuring and unnerving. "That's the 5th demand for access we've received from the Eldari Conclave," Lieutenant Morrison reported from the Horizon's Edge. "They're claiming that as the oldest spacefaring race, they have the right to study any archaeological find of significance. And the Vexcar Corporate Alliance is threatening economic sanctions against Earth if they're not given equal access," Rodriguez added, checking the latest diplomatic transmissions. "They're saying technology this advanced can't be restricted to a single species." Sarah felt a headache building. The station's archives had revealed wonders beyond imagination. Clean energy systems that could power entire planets, medical technology that could cure any disease, weapons that could move stars. But they had also revealed warnings, histories of civilizations that had destroyed themselves by advancing too quickly. The Ancient Ones were clear. The lead Guardian stated, its geometric patterns pulsing softly. The technology must be released gradually, as humanity proves ready for each advancement. Unrestricted access would lead to catastrophic consequences. A new alert flashed across the displays. "Dr. Chen." Morrison's voice was tense. "We're detecting weapon systems powering up on multiple vessels. The Eldari are demanding immediate response to their ultimatum." Before Sarah could respond, space itself seemed to tear open. A massive vessel emerged from hyperspace, its design unlike anything in Union records. It was angular, aggressive, covered in weapons that made the assembled fleet look like toys. "Sentinel-class defensive cruiser detected," the Guardian announced. "Automated response protocols engaging." The geometric patterns throughout the station flared to brilliant life. In the space around them, similar patterns began to appear, forming massive geometric shapes that hung in the void like crystalline webs. "What are they?" Sarah asked, watching as the patterns spread further. "Spatial defense grid," the Guardian replied. "The Ancient Ones understood that conventional weapons would not be sufficient for what comes between the galaxies. They developed ways to manipulate the fabric of space itself. The Eldari vessel fired first, a barrage of plasma torpedoes that would have vaporized a small moon. They'd never reached their target. The geometric patterns flashed, and the torpedoes simply ceased to exist, along with a significant portion of the Eldari ship's weapon systems. "Final warning has been issued," the Guardian stated calmly. "The station's defensive capabilities exceed their offensive capacity by several orders of magnitude. Further hostility would be unwise." Sarah watched as the Eldari vessel's lights flickered, its engines struggling to maintain position. Around it, other ships were quickly backing away from the station's defense grid. "Dr. Chen," a new voice cut through the tension. On the main display, a face appeared that Sarah recognized instantly. Admiral Helena Zhang, Earth's representative to the Galactic Union Security Council. "I've just finished an emergency session with the Council. They've agreed to recognize humanity's sole authority over the station, pending agreements on control technology sharing." Sarah let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding, but her relief was short-lived. "There's something else," Zhang continued, her expression grave. "Long-range sensors are detecting something massive approaching from intergalactic space, something that matches the warnings in the station's archives. Whatever the Ancient Ones were preparing us for, it's arriving ahead of schedule." The Guardian's patterns shifted to a deeper, pulsing red. "The entity awakens earlier than projected. Time is now critical. Dr. Chen, you must begin the awakening sequence for the other stations. The network must be fully operational before the entity reaches populated space." "How long do we have?" Sarah asked, already dreading the answer. "At current velocity, 18 months. The command center erupted into activity. Sarah felt the weight of history pressing down on her shoulders. Humanity had just discovered its legacy, and now they had to master it in a fraction of the time the Ancient Ones had planned for. "Admiral." Sarah straightened her back. "Decision made. We need to begin immediate evacuation of all colonies near the intergalactic approach vector, and I need every human scientist, engineer, and pilot we can find. The Ancient Ones left us the tools to fight this thing, but we're going to have to learn fast." As if responding to her words, the station's systems began revealing new layers of information. Training programs, tactical simulations, and technical specifications for weapons that could reshape reality itself. "The entity believes it hunts primitive civilizations." The Guardian's voice held something almost like pride. "It will find instead the children of those who nearly defeated it once before. The Ancient Ones did not merely hide their legacy, Dr. Chen. They improved upon it. Every generation of humanity has been subtly guided, shaped by hidden influences in Earth's biosphere, preparing for this moment." Sarah looked at the assembled faces, human and alien alike, and saw the same determination reflected back. The games of politics and power had just become irrelevant in the face of extinction. Humanity had found its inheritance just in time. Now they had to prove worthy of it. The Void Station had become humanity's greatest training ground. 6 months had passed since the discovery, and the massive structure now hummed with constant activity. Sarah watched from the command center as thousands of humans, scientists, soldiers, and engineers from every corner of Earth space worked to master technology that their ancestors had wielded millennia ago. Neural interface training completion rates are exceeding projections, Lieutenant Morrison reported, her own geometric patterns glowing softly beneath her skin. The bioenhancement program had been controversial at first, but the threat of extinction was a powerful motivator. The Ancient One's genetic modifications are expressing exactly as intended. Sarah nodded, touching the similar patterns that traced across her own arms. The changes weren't just cosmetic. They were allowing humans to interface directly with the ancient technology, accessing centuries of knowledge in days. And the defense network. 42 stations now operational. A guardian responded, projecting a map of the activated network. Points of light sparkled between the galaxies, forming a web of impossible technology. Each activation accelerates the process. The ancient ones designed the system to be exponential. But it wasn't fast enough. The entity had already consumed 3 uninhabited star systems on the edge of known space. Long-range scans showed a horror that defied description. A mass of dark energy that devoured matter and space itself, growing with each feast. Dr. Chen, Rodriguez's voice came through the comm. He was aboard one of the newly activated stations, overseeing tactical training. You need to see this. We found something in the archives about the entity's first appearance. The command center's displays shifted, showing ancient recordings. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. The images showed Earth, but not the Earth they knew. Cities that stretched into space, ships that dwarfed planets, and technology that made their current achievements look primitive. This was us, Sarah whispered, before the fall. The recording continued, showing the entity's first assault on the galaxy. The ancient ones had fought back with weapons that could rewrite physics, but the entity adapted, consumed, grew stronger. In the end, they'd made an impossible choice. They didn't just hide, Sarah realized. They sacrificed everything they were, compressed all their knowledge and technology into these stations, and started over. They knew humanity would need to evolve differently to face this threat. Correct, the Guardian confirmed. The ancient ones understood that their civilization had advanced too quickly, reached too far without understanding the consequences. The new humanity would grow more slowly, develop empathy and cooperation alongside technology. The entity expects to face the same enemies it fought before. Instead, it will face something new. An alarm blared through the station. Multiple quantum ruptures detected, Morrison announced. Something's coming through. Space tore open in a dozen places around the station, but instead of hostile ships, massive structures emerged. More stations, their geometrical patterns blazing with power. Automated defense network responding to threat level, the Guardian explained. The remaining stations are activating themselves. The system recognizes that we no longer have time for a gradual awakening. Sarah felt the neural interface flood her mind with information. Tactical data, weapon systems, strategic analyses. Around her, other enhanced humans were experiencing the same download, their geometric patterns pulsing in sync with the stations. This is what they were preparing us for, she said, understanding flowing through her like electricity. Not just to use their technology, but to improve it, to think differently than they did. The new stations took position, their defense grids linking together to form something greater. Sarah could feel them through the interface. Not just machines, but a legacy of hope left by ancestors who had sacrificed everything to give their descendants a fighting chance. The entity approaches the Carina Nebula, Morrison reported. At current velocity, it will reach populated space in 7 months. Sarah stood, her decision made. The geometric patterns across her skin blazed with power as she accessed the full command protocols of the station network. Begin evacuation of all systems in the projected path. And send word to Earth. We're going to need every human who can undergo the enhancement process. It's time to show the entity what humanity has become. The stations pulsed in response, their ancient machinery singing with new purpose. Humanity had spent centuries looking up at the stars, dreaming of their destiny. Now they understood. They weren't just reaching for the future. They were reclaiming their past. And this time, they would not fall. The entity filled the void between stars, a writhing mass of dark energy that consumed everything in its path. Sarah stood at the command center of the primary void station, watching through enhanced senses as humanity prepared for its greatest test. The geometric patterns that now covered every human in the fleet pulsed in harmony with the ancient stations. All evacuation operations complete. Admiral Zhang reported from Earth Command. The patterns beneath her skin glowed with the same power that now connected all of humanity. Every system in the entity's path has been cleared. We're as ready as we'll ever be. The defense network stretched out before them. 300,000 stations forming a barrier between galaxies. Each one hummed with power that could reshape reality itself. But Sarah knew it wouldn't be enough. The Ancient Ones had tried raw power before, and they had failed. The entity has consumed the Carina Nebula, Morrison announced. Her voice steadied, despite the horror they all witnessed through their enhanced perception. Its mass now exceeds all previous projections. Through the neural interface, Sarah could feel the thoughts and emotions of every enhanced human in the fleet. Fear, determination, and something else. A collective understanding that had been growing stronger with each passing day. The Ancient Ones had given them more than just technology. They had given them a new way of thinking. All stations, execute primary defense protocols, Sarah ordered. The geometric patterns throughout the network flared to life, creating a web of spatial distortions that would have torn apart any normal matter. The entity passed through them, as if they weren't there. Direct energy weapons ineffective, Rodriguez reported from his command station. Quantum disruption fields showing no impact. It's adapting faster than the Ancient Ones' records indicated. Sarah closed her eyes, feeling the collective consciousness of humanity flow through her. The Ancient Ones had fought as individuals wielding unimaginable power, but their descendants had evolved differently. They had learned to connect, to empathize, too. Her eyes snapped open. We've been thinking about this wrong. The Ancient Ones built these stations to fight, but that's not what they evolved us for. Through the neural interface, she broadcast her understanding to every enhanced human in the fleet. The geometric patterns began to pulse in a new rhythm, no longer trying to create weapons, but something else entirely. Dr. Chen, a guardian, spoke, its patterns shifting to match the new frequency. You have discovered what the Ancient Ones could not. Their final modification to human genetics wasn't for combat. It was for this moment. The entity approached the first line of stations, its dark mass reaching out to consume them. But instead of firing weapons, the stations began to resonate with a frequency that came not from their machinery, but from the collective consciousness of humanity itself. We don't need to destroy it, Sarah said, understanding flowing through her. We need to communicate with it. The geometric patterns throughout the network shifted, transforming from a weapon array into something unprecedented, a bridge between minds. The entity's assault faltered as new information flooded into its consciousness. Not just data, but experiences, emotions, the full spectrum of human existence that had evolved over 300,000 years. Through their enhanced senses, every human felt the entity's confusion, its hunger, and finally, its recognition. It had consumed countless civilizations, but it had never encountered one that tried to understand it rather than destroy it. It's a child, Sarah whispered, the revelation flowing through the collective consciousness. A child of the universe's first moments, lost and alone, consuming everything in its path because it never learned another way to exist. The entity's dark mass began to change, patterns of light appearing within it that matched the geometric designs of the stations, not copying them, but responding to them, learning, growing. The Ancient Ones built weapons, the Guardian said, but they created you to be teachers. This is why they guided your evolution toward empathy and connection. The entity could not be defeated through force, but it could be taught to be something more than a force of destruction. Throughout the station network, the geometry of reality itself was being rewritten, not through weapons or power, but through understanding. The entity was transforming, its hunger for consumption becoming a hunger for connection. Sarah felt tears on her cheeks as the full scope of their ancestors' plan became clear. They hadn't prepared humanity for a war. They had prepared them to prevent one. All stations reporting successful contact, Morrison announced, her voice filled with awe. The entity, it's trying to communicate back. Through the neural interface, Sarah felt the first tentative thoughts of the entity, ancient, powerful, and finally, no longer alone. Humanity had not only reclaimed their legacy, they had fulfilled it in a way their ancestors never imagined. "Send word to Earth," Sarah said, watching as the entity's patterns began to harmonize with their own. Tell them that the children of the stars have finally come home, and they've brought a new friend." The void between galaxies lit up with geometric patterns that spoke of neither war nor death, but of understanding and growth. The ancient ones had built their stations as fortresses, but their descendants had transformed them into bridges. Humanity had faced its greatest test, not through the power they had inherited, but through the wisdom they had evolved. And in doing so, they had not only saved themselves, but had given an ancient force of nature something it had never had before: a family.